Twins are often perceived as similar in all aspects, expected to share a strong bond and be inseparable, especially when they grow up together. However, this movie presents a different perspective on the relationship and characteristics of twins. Meet Akin, nicknamed Kala, and his twin brother Whale. Tragically, they lost both their parents in a highway robbery back in 2000. Since then, they have had to rely on each other for support. Recently, Kala has been released from prison, and his aunt Mornike picks him up. She catches him up on everything that has happened during his time behind bars and informs him about Whale's new job in the special forces of the police. As Whale introduces himself to his boss, Asp Daniel, the team prepares to head out. Nervously, Whale looks around as Simon, a team member, speaks rudely to him. However, a female team member, rebukes Simon's behavior and treats Whale with kindness. Meanwhile, Collar reunites with a thug friend, much to his aunt's displeasure. She calls for him, but he ignores her. In the midst of this, Whale and his team carry out a raid on a drug dealer's factory. During the operation, Whale saves his team members' lives through a spontaneous shootout with the surviving dealers, ultimately killing them. Concerned for their safety, Aunt Mornike takes Kala to live with her. When they arrive home, she shows him a letter given to her by a group of robbers known as the Ajuju Boys, who terrorize the neighborhood. The letter informs her of their arrival date and asks her to keep money for them. Kala looks at the letter and laughs, considering them amateurs. Aunt Mornike suggests that they go live with Whale until the unrest dies down, but Kala adamantly refuses. Just then, Whale walks in, and instead of exchanging greetings, he and Kala engage in a heated argument, trading insults. Aunt Mornike is upset by their behavior and wonders when they will stop being sworn enemies and become brothers again. Despite her plea, Kala refuses to accompany her to Whale's home, and she goes alone. During the night, the Ajuju Boys make their arrival, and Kala finds himself in a vulnerable position as they brandish their guns. However, one of the thieves, Isra, recognizes Kala as an old friend. They exchange pleasantries, exchange phone numbers, and Isra convinces his gang to spare Kala's life. At Whale's police unit, Officer Montserrat briefs the team on a new target related to carjacking. When Whale questions why they are not taking action to stop the Ajuju Boys' operations, she explains that it falls under the jurisdiction of the local police, and their special unit has larger targets to focus on. Later, Whale receives an invitation to Officer Daniel's birthday party. Meanwhile, Kala also receives an invitation to hang out with the Ajuju Boys later that night. As he meets them at the club, Isra introduces him to the gang members, including Kehend, Poison, Emma, Townsman, Goldie, and Osho. After the introductions, Kala requests a private conversation with Isra. He proposes an idea to improve the Ajuju gang's robberies by suggesting a bullion van heist. Kala claims to have connections and offers to help them successfully carry out the robbery. Isra finds the idea intriguing and agrees to introduce Kala to his boss, Shadow, who would be interested in the plan. At Asp Daniel's birthday party, held at his home, Whale encounters Kamzi, Asp Daniel's daughter, and is captivated by her beauty. He takes a moment to get a drink in the kitchen, and a conversation ensues between them. Whale decides to visit the divisional police officer in the local area to discuss the terror caused by the Ajuju Boy. The DPO informs him that everyone is afraid to confront them due to the ruthless murders they commit against the families of those who try to stop them. Nevertheless, the DPO agrees to contact Whale if he comes across any useful information. Shadow reprimands Kehend and Poison for carrying out operations without consulting him first. They apologize and step out, while Kala enters Shadow's office accompanied by Isra. Shadow asks Kala to present his plans, and he does so. Kala begins by mentioning his friend Ajura, who has experience with bullion vans, and Kalu, another friend who works as a bus driver. When discussing the required weapons and equipment for the operation, Shadow assures him that he has it covered. However, Kala insists that they need more sophisticated weapons and proposes contacting his ex-military friend for assistance. He also reveals that he has a specific target in mind. 3 months later, Kala, in collaboration with the Ajuju Boys gang, carries out their first robbery targeting the bullion van. The operation proceeds according to plan until Isra unexpectedly shoots a police officer. This upsets Kala, and he almost engages in a fight with Isra at their rendezvous point. However, Shadow intervenes, reminding them that they have more urgent matters to attend to, such as safely returning home, before settling their dispute. Meanwhile, Kamzi informs Whale that she is pregnant, and he seizes the moment to propose marriage, professing his deep love for her. Whale's special police squad begins investigating the bullion van robbery orchestrated by his brother, Kala. When Whale suggests to Officer Samuel that the Ajuju Boys may be involved, Samuel dismisses the idea, considering the robbery too well organized for a small gang. Whale receives a call from the local DPO, informing him that Kehinde has been arrested and brought in for questioning. However, Kehinde remains tight-lipped, refusing to provide any information about his gang or their operations. Kala expresses his concerns about the possibility of getting caught by the police to Goldie due to Isra's behavior. She assures him that they will be fine, placing her trust in Shadow. Goldie shares a story of how Shadow saved her life, emphasizing her unwavering trust in him. She then asks Kala if he trusts her, and they share a kiss. While watching the news, ACP Daniel receives a visit from Whale, who seeks his blessing to marry Kamsi. ACP Daniel agrees to the union. Whale then visits Aunt Mornike to invite her to the wedding. When she questions why he refuses to invite his brother, he responds by saying that he doesn't want any troublemakers at his wedding, which deeply upsets his aunt. Mornike tells him never to curse his brother and reminds him that without Kala, Whale would be dead. She reveals that Kala was sent to prison at the age of 14 for stealing malaria drugs for Whale. Whale asks about the times following that incident, but his aunt states that they didn't try hard enough to make Kala better. Whale argues back, claiming that he also endured hardship but chose to lead a better life instead of descending into darkness. As he leaves, Whale instructs his aunt not to bring Kala to his wedding. However, as he reaches the bottom of the stairs, he comes face to face with his brother and asks about his source of income. Kala dismisses the question, asserting that he doesn't owe Whale any explanations, but Whale urges him not to drag everyone down with him. Truly, we are defined by the choices we make. Thinking face. When Kala enters the room, Aunt Mornike shows him Whale's wedding invitation, and he is disappointed to learn that his brother didn't invite him. On the day of Whale's wedding ceremony, Kala and the Ajuju boys storm the event, dressed extravagantly and arriving in luxurious cars. No one recognizes them as the perpetrators of various crimes. They flaunt their wealth, causing displeasure to Whale. After the wedding, ACP Daniel, who is now Whale's father-in-law, questions Whale about why he kept his twin brother Kala hidden from everyone. He wonders if there's something else Whale is concealing. Whale explains that Kala has always been involved in criminal activities, so he chose to cut him off to avoid trouble. Meanwhile, Kehinde becomes resentful that none of his gang members made any efforts to secure his release from jail, so he decides to betray them by providing information to Whale. At the headquarters of the Ajuju Boys gang, Shadow reprimands Kala for their extravagant display at Whale's wedding, emphasizing the need for a low profile to avoid attracting police attention. Kala assures him that nothing will go wrong, as Whale is his twin brother, and he only wanted to make the wedding more enjoyable. After offering their apologies to Shadow, Isra suggests a new robbery job. However, Kala opposes it, arguing that Isra's source cannot be trusted and that the operation is too risky. They engage in a heated argument, but Shadow intervenes before it escalates. He suggests taking a vote to decide whether to proceed with the operation or not. The majority agrees to go ahead, and Shadow asks Kala if he's in or out. Angrily, Kala states that he's out and storms off, with Goldie following him. Outside, Kala confides in Goldie that if they carry out the robbery, they will either end up dead or in prison. He expresses his reluctance to return to jail so soon after his recent release. Goldie tries to persuade him to accept the job, suggesting that they can make a fortune and start a new life elsewhere by pooling their resources. As they leave the compound on Goldie's bike, Whale arrives in his car, narrowly missing them. He enters the building and engages in friendly conversation with Isra, inquiring about Whale's whereabouts and then about Shadow. The discomfort caused by his questions prompts them to ask him to leave. Goldie meets Cobra at a bar and asks him about the details of the robbery and his plans to carry it out, knowing that he has no clue. She suggests that he consults with Kala, inviting Kala to their table and leaving them to sort things out. Eventually, Kala and Cobra reconcile, and Kala insists that the robbery should be carried out according to his plan. Kala and the Ajuju boys proceed with their next robbery. Meanwhile, ACP Daniel is on his way to the hospital when he hears about the ongoing robbery orchestrated by Kala and the gang. Once again, Isra deviates from the plan and detonates an ATM machine that wasn't part of the original plan, angering Kala. However, they quickly flee the scene in their vehicles, but Officer Daniel spots them and gives chase while calling for backup. A shootout erupts between the Ajuju boys and the police, but tragically, Officer Daniel is killed in the process. As the Ajuju boys return to their headquarters, Kala confronts Isra, accusing him of being greedy, and a physical fight ensues. The other gang members intervene and separate them. Kala declares that he will no longer participate in the second robbery scheduled for that day. Shadow becomes furious and declares that nobody will receive their share until they successfully carry out the second robbery. In a moment of tension, Kala pulls out his gun and aims it at Shadow, prompting the other gang members to defend their leader. Goldie steps in and diffuses the situation, but Kala leaves the scene in anger. Whale watches footage of the first robbery. Despite the masks worn by the robbers, he believes he recognizes Kala among them. He rushes to the Ajuju boys' headquarters, but finds no one there. He hurriedly goes to Aunt Mornike's house and asks her about Kala's whereabouts, sharing his suspicion that Kala is involved in the robbery. Aunt Mornike questions how he could identify Kala since they were masked, and pleads with him not to implicate his brother. Later that evening, Adura tries to convince Kala to participate in the second robbery. Kala expresses his fears of getting caught, but Adura assures him that everything will be fine. Convinced, Kala returns to join the team, offering his apologies to the Ajuju boys. They plan their strategies for the second robbery, and Shadow provides them with the contact information of the person who will help them escape the country. Afterward, he advises everyone to keep a low profile until the heat dies down. The following morning, they carry out the robbery on the famous Third Mainland Bridge. Meanwhile, Whale's team mobilizes to stop their operation. The robbery initially proceeds smoothly, but as the police team arrives, a massive shootout erupts between them. In the midst of the chaos, Shadow hands his gun to Isra to reload, but Isra betrays him and shoots him instead, motivated by his desire to keep all the money for himself. Shadow is surprised by the betrayal. Whale calls out to his brother Kala, urging him to surrender before it's too late, but Kala refuses and continues to engage in a shootout with the police. Isra leaves the bridge and boards an escape boat, killing another gang member in the process, as he intends to escape with the entire sum of money. Kala and Goldie remain on the bridge but find themselves trapped. They try to flee on a bike, but Goldie is killed, and Kala becomes surrounded by the police. Aunt Mornike receives news of the robbery and realizes that both Kala and his brother are on opposing sides. Filled with panic and sorrow, she rushes to the bridge, crying out for Kala. Authorities order Kala to drop his weapon, but he hesitates. Suddenly, he is shot twice, causing him to fall from the top of the bridge into the water below. As the police continue firing into the water, Whale pleads with them to stop, revealing that Kala is his brother. Surprisingly, Shadow survives the gunshot wound and is taken into custody. Aunt Mornike is inconsolable and overcome with grief as she mourns for a kin. Meanwhile, Isra reaches the house of the man who was supposed to help him escape the country. Simultaneously, officers search the water where Kala fell, but their efforts prove fruitless as they fail to locate him. Miraculously, Kala survives both the gunshots and the fall. He makes his way to the man's house, where Isra is also present, and he exacts revenge by killing Isra for his betrayal. A few years later, Kala and Adura have become wealthy and prosperous, having successfully survived the robbery. Kala reaches out to Whale, and the latter is relieved to learn that his brother is alive. Thank you for watching. Please share, like, and subscribe. Goodbye.